Between the 15th and 19th centuries, a vast slave trade was established between Europe, Africa, and America. Approximately 12 million men, women, and children were sold as slaves on the coast of Africa, torn from their homeland, and transported across the Atlantic by white slave traders to work in the New World. This trade grew considerably over a century and a half and resisted several attempts to abolish it.
Peace, family. Welcome to another episode Underground Railroad. This your host, Brother Rich. We out here in these Brooklyn streets. We ain't got the background for y'all today, but this is good enough right here. I'm back with the brother Alim Bey. As y'all know, Blue Pill, but the brother Alim Bey, man. Yo, the first video I ever participated in was at Sarnetta's house. It was called The Dark Side in the Underworlds. And I told Sarnetta, I said, yo, let me sit in on an interview with you. He said, you got a donation? You got some money? I said, damn, that's a greedy dude there. So I gave him a donation for the interview. I sat in on the interview, and it was a wonderful build. Then when I finally got my own equipment, the first person I interviewed was you again, the law of attraction. Right. We did a tape on the law of attraction. So that was dope. So it's good to have you back here. Many years for, what was that, about 7 years ago? Yeah. Might have been about might have been about 7, 8, yeah, about 7, 8 years ago. But anyway, man, a lot going on, brother Alim. I know you got a lot going on down south. You got a lot of land down south, and that makes me think about how they say we used to have land down south, and we got rid of it, came up north. Right. B.O.B. Waka Flocka. There's a lot of brothers on the what we call celebrities on the internet right now, talking about Moorish aspect. We're Moors, we're indigenous to America. B.O.B. saying ain't no such thing as slave ships. Slave ships never existed. Right. Brother Alim, for some reason, every time we have this conversation, people tell me you got to talk to Brother Alim. The Brother Alim got these documents, he got this information that'll shut everything down. So I'm here today to talk to the Brother Alim. Brother Alim, man, when they say no slave ships ever existed and slavery didn't happen and this and that, right, it almost sounds like escapism, brother. Right. Could you talk to me about exactly what they're talking about and what it is, why people keep recommending you?
All right, well, my book, The First World Order, is the main reason, and then the various videos that I've done over the last 20 some odd years. But to answer that question, the reason why they speak about the fact that there's no slave ship because I've gone to all the major museums in the world. I've gone to the Smithsonian. My wife and I have gone here to the Metropolitan, as well as also to the Natural Science and History Museum here, as well as also we're going to Italy, to the museum there. We have gone to the Louvre in Paris, as well as also to the British Museum in London.
They got stuff from Kemet in there.
Right. So we've gone to all the major museums in the world, and guess what? Not one damn slave ship. But yet, these are the countries that is claimed to have participated in the slave trade. Right. We're looking at the United States, we're looking at Britain, we're looking at France. These are the three major players on the slave trade that they told us about.
Can I ask you, did you make it to the Smithsonian African-American
Yes, we're going there also, and guess what? Not one damn slave ship. No slave ship in there. They didn't even do a damn replica, but they do show you the chains. Right. And they show you that same damn picture that they keep showing us of the slave ship.
Right, the way it's stockpiled.
Right. They show you the stockpile of the slaves in the slave ship. You know what I'm saying?
But no slave ship.
But no slave ship. So this is the reason why B.O.B. is stating that, is because they don't even have a replica of one that they can show us. And the European with his ego, how he is, like
he recreated Noah's Ark.
Exactly. He created Noah's Ark.
And they got a bunch of movies about it.
Right.
So if something was so traumatic, and I'm not saying it isn't.
Right.
If a rendering of something or just the verbal suggesting of something is so traumatic to the psyche of melanated people, you know what I'm saying? Right. You know how the white boy loves horror and trauma. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Why has he never represented this in any form, like you said, even as a replica?
Right. You know damn well they would love to have our children to walk onto the slave ship, put them in, put their little arms and hands, simulate it. Yeah, come on,
simulate
Billy.
The horror.
Put your arm inside this, you know what I'm saying? Inside this brace. Inside this, they would love to do that.
See how it fits.
Right, see how it fits, Billy. Oh, that looks very good. Come on. I mean, this is the mentality of the individual that we dealing with. They're psychopathic and sociopathic. And I'm not saying all of them, and I'm not saying that slavery did not take place. Slavery happened. All right? Hell, slavery's still going on today. It's called sex slave traffic. Slavery in all forms is still taking place today. You know what I'm saying? So don't think just because there's no chains, but even as those who study history, they'll still say that there's chains on the brain,
Right.
So let's not take it to let's not take it beyond, that, what B.O.B. was trying to say, because they're trying to say as if slavery did not happen in that sense. That's not what he mean. He's not saying slavery did not happen. He's just simply saying that the slave ships, you know what I'm saying, that there's something about them claiming that have brought us all here on slave ships is something in which that does not mathematically equal up, because we're talking about a 3 to 4 month voyage. All right. And let's look at one ship with 200 POWs, i.e. slaves that was on the ships. You're talking about 200 to 500 in a major ship would have been about 500, all right, quote unquote, POWs or slaves on there. So we're talking about 200 to 500. So let's look at that over a 3 to 4 month voyage. I just want to know the distillation process in which that was used to transform salt water into fresh water that the European had. Because we're talking about tons of water in which that would have to have been on the ships in order to give, thirst or quench the thirst of 200 to 500 so-called POWs, i.e. slaves.
Right.
And we're talking about tons of water. And you can only go without water for about a week and a half. And we're talking about 3 to 4 month voyage here. You know what I'm saying? And we're talking about, and if, as Hakeem Bey said, they would have to have, if they was defecating on themselves because they were seasick, nausea, vomiting, that's a lot to wipe up for 200 to 500 individuals. How would they be able to do this? It just doesn't make any logical sense. There's something going on here with these stories. Now, what we do have history on is that you get Africans and Native Americans by Dr. Jack Forbes, a professor Jack Forbes. He shows that over 300 so-called Native Americans, indigenous aboriginals, was taken from here, from America, into England.
Yes.
And they got paintings of this.
That's the first documented, quote unquote, transatlantic slave trade. It was opposite of what's being told to, ourselves through, the miseducation system. They were sending captives from the Americas to Europe. Right.
And they also, and they was named, and it was reclassified from Native American to Negro when they got there to Europe.
Now, here we go, when people say you gotta holler at Alim, it's because, me myself, I've seen it, I've been to your presentations, you have a lot of documentations. Right. You have a lot of thorough documentations, in black and white, that speaks to the reclassification methods that were utilized to change indigenous aboriginals into Negro blacks and colors. Right. Can you briefly speak on that? What have you seen with your own eyes in regards to this classification? How much truth is it with people saying, well, our people were indigenous to the Americas and they were just changed by way of classification to take on these totally new identities? Right.
There was a guy by the name in Virginia, his name was Pluckert. And Pluckert, what he did was reclassify the Native Americans and change their classification from Native American or indigenous aboriginals to become Negroes, blacks, and coloreds. Matter of fact, they destroyed hundreds and thousands of birth certificates, you know, and documented evidence in order to hide the fact of these so-called Native Americans being that indigenous aboriginals, to reclassify them as Negroes and coloreds. You know what I'm saying? So the darker ones, they became the Negroes. The you know, the so-called lighter ones became the coloreds. You know what I'm saying? And then, as we know, that even just 100 years ago, we had, at the turn of the century of the 1900s, we was called Negroes. 30 years later, by 1930, W.E.B. Du Bois said that we was colored. You know what I'm saying? By 1960, we was black. By 1990, you know, based on Jesse Jackson, 1988 in particular, when he ran for president, you know, we became African American. Right. So every 30 years, it seems that we have changed, right? We have changed our names, our identity or classification over the last 100 some odd years, you know. But yet, when we say that we Moors, all of a sudden they come out with the BIE. So they don't want you to be a Moor, but they had no problem with you being black, because they even called it black identity extremists. So now it's extreme if you don't want to be classified as black any longer. That's the extreme thing. Right. All right. That's what's going on. So they don't want you to be classified as a Moor, but they want you to be classified as black, Negro, colored, African American, whatever the case is, long as you're not talking about this Moorish shit.
That's the red flag.
Right.
Because if there was no truth to it, why classify it? Why demonize it? Why spook people so much that you're going to put people on a terrorist list if they want to identify themselves with a nationality, and the UN Charter says that you have every right
to have a nationality. That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So what about this nationality in particular has these people so terrified that they want to label people who identify themselves with their Aboriginal identity as terrorists?
Right. Well, based on the UN definition of indigenous, it states those who have a historical continuity here prior to the invasion of their territory by the Europeans, all right, as well as those who was brought here to the New World and who wish to free themselves, all right, and reattach themselves to a culture that they've been torn. Now, that is the two definitions of indigenous by the United Nations. The first one speaks of those who are already here, which we're talking about those who are indigenous aboriginals, i.e. us, all right, our lineage here, as well as the 15% to 8% of the Africans that were born here. Now, if I never seen how, if we got 100%, all right, and you got, out of the 100%, you got 8 to 15%, those who mix in become the majority, hence you now get the word African American. Damn, wouldn't that be backwards? Wouldn't that be, I mean, hell, just damn in the 1960s, we was called American Negro. Negro was at least second. We was called American Negro. You know what I'm saying? Because when you look at the definition of American, it states in Webster Universal Dictionary that American are the Aboriginal natives. Talking about here now, copper-colored natives. All right? The original application of the word is Maru. The word Maru is the same word as a Moor. M-R, all right? The vowels are taken out. It's the continents which are M-R. Now, if you get the book, name of the book is Ptahhotep, the oldest book in the world. Right. It's written by Dr. Asa G. Hilliard, all right, who died in Egypt, and his body was brought back here by President Barack Obama, who buried him because they both was Boule members, all right? When he was a senator. Right. When he was, well, before he became president, when he was senator, exactly. Right. All right, so that's what we're talking about. So in that book, he showed you an owl, which is M, the letter for, which is symbol of the M, is an owl, and then the R is the mouth of Ra, which is called Ru. So M-R-U becomes the word Maru or the word Moor. All right? So when we looking at the translation, that's what it comes. And the definition that he gave for the word was guardians. Now that's the same thing in Stolen Legacy. When we go to page, 39 in Stolen Legacy by George G. James, where he states that the Moors were the guardians or custodians of the ancient Egyptian information. All right, the Moors was that. So when you go now to the book by Chancellor Williams, Destruction of Black Civilization, you know, he states in there that the Egyptians and the Moors were one and the same people. All right, so that means that we're missing something. Now, everybody's saying, well, that happened in Africa. Well, yeah, but you have 18 temples right here in the Grand Canyon. You have writings of Metu Neter from the tribe of the Micmac. You know what I'm saying? You get Dr. Barry Fell, his books, you know what I'm saying, on America. And he states this in his books, that he's done research and study throughout the United States, or what we now North America, and he has shown how the various tribes had Metu Neter. All right, exactly. The Micmac in particular, the Algonquin, various tribes of the Algonquin. That means the Lenape, the Nanocoke, who are known as the Delaware Moors.
They had Metu Neter.
They had Metu Neter. Right. This is all Metu Neter. So Barry Fell, he shows this, and he was a Harvard professor, Harvard University. All right.
Now, to be respectful, because at the end of the day, you know, this is all about respecting our ancestors.
Right.
So to be respectful of our ancestors, you know what I'm saying, we have to acknowledge that there is such a thing as Gory Island. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There were definitely portals through which, you know, a certain level of transport took place.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's also worth noting,
like I said, about 8 to 15%.
Right. You know, a high percentage of our African brethren and sistren, you know, made landfall in the Caribbean, Brazil in particular.
Right.
You know, and there was a percentage.
More so in Brazil than here.
Yes, there was a percentage that also came over here. So when this information is being relayed, what do you think is being misinterpreted, where a lot of people are in their feelings and these conversations have a tendency to polarize more than unite?
Right. That's because many feel that by being American, you're not African. We're not saying that we're not African, because the word Africa comes from ancient Egypt. That's on the walls of ancient Kemet and Metu Neter also. All right. The word Af or Afu, you know, Ra and Ka. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, there was a rapper named Afu Ra.
It was.
Who used to rhyme with who?
Well, he used to spit with Doom, I think, at some point.
He spit with them. He also spit with J. Rule the Damager.
J. Rule, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was J. Rule.
Right, J. Rule the Damager.
Yeah.
And his name is Afu Ra. You know what I'm saying? Which is an ancient Kemetic word, which means the sun in the body of man, or the sun or the light in man, which is the temple, the house. You know what I'm saying? This correlates to 1 Corinthians 3:16. Do you not know that your body is the temple of God? That's what that is saying, that your body is the temple of God. So Afu Ra means the body of God. Ka means spirit or breath, you know what I'm saying, in that relationship, you know? So this is the spiritual essence in this body. The spiritual essence of God is in this body. So Afu Ra or Afu Ra Ka, that's what it means, you know? So we are all Africans in that sense, because my spiritual divine essence dwells in his body. So there's no problem with the word Africa in its original content. However, if you're just saying that the European brought me here 400 years ago, when I have documented proof of Abu Bakari, who was here over 168 years before Columbus, that's what I have a problem with. Because they say that he came, the first time he sent out 200 ships. Only out of the 200 ships, only one came back to verify that the 199 other ships continue going here into this land. The following year, he packed up his shit, and damn 2,000 ships left Africa from the West Coast. God damn, that's damn 2,200 ships that we talking about that left from out of the west coast of Africa, and they said they was coming over here to be with their brothers. Who was their brothers that was already here? Documented proof shows that even Zachariah Ascension and many others, he wrote the book Lost Realms, and many others, David Childress, he wrote the book about the Olmecs, you know what I'm saying, the Olmecs, Enigma, you know, all of them even states and verify that that they was already here, that the Olmecs was already here over 5,000 years ago. So the only brothers that Abu Bakari II could be talking about was his brothers and sisters who were the Olmecs, or who known as the Sheep people, who was already here, because we got documented proof that they was part of the Mandinka people, who is also known as the Dogon. The Dogon and the Mandinka people are one and the same people. You know what I'm saying? And matter of fact, there's a Mandinka West African tribe, and there's a Dinka East African tribe, and they both the same people. You know what I'm saying? So this is what we have to realize, that we're not saying that we didn't come out of Africa. You know what I'm saying? Part of our ancestry did come.
But again, why do you think this conversation continues to be so polarizing to elements of our community?
Because we have a victimization, a victim mentality.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We want to be, you know, the black sheep on the planet Earth. We want to stay in that predicament, you know, of worry me. We was enslaved. You can't expect nothing else from us except for us. Come on, yo. We got to get outside of that mentality. That is post traumatic syndrome. All right. That is what we call menticide. All right. Bobby E. Wright coined the term menticide. We are mentally genocidal in our thoughts. Mentally genocidal in our thoughts. Menticize. All right. So check out Professor or Dr. Bobby E. Wright. He showed you, you know, the situation and the problem with our mentality of victimized, you know, of us.
Victimization.
Right. Victimization, us being the victims. That's the problem. That's a problem. You know what I'm saying? So because we have that mentality, this is what is taking place. You know, so in order to break that mentality, we have to go a whole new route. We have to go back and do more research. Like I said, Abu Bakari, who is Mansa Abu Bakari, all right, who was the uncle of Mansa Musa. Abu Bakari was in the leadership or in the head king role position, and he was the richest man on the damn planet. So they put together 2,200 ships and came here in search of their brothers and sisters, the Olmecs, the She people, 168 years before Columbus. So if you want to know how your West African traits got here, it came by Abu Bakari, not by those damn Europeans. Sorry, that is a lie. All right, so that's how the ships got here, because we built them, not because they bought us here. Let's get the history straight.
Have we ever found any evidence of these ships, of these fleets?
Actually, they have.
It sounds like there were armadas that came over here. Have there been any
proof,
findings?
There's proof of Abu Bakari coming here. There's proof in Nevada. There's proof in Arizona. Matter of fact, that's who built the 18 temples in Arizona. Was them. You know what I'm saying? These was astrological. These was astrology points. You know, just like the Dogons, they was the master astrologers in Egypt. All right, the Mandinkas was part of that same people. All right, and they came here and they built these same pyramids and structures and mounds. They helped with these designs. But the Olmecs was already doing these things prior in the old world, because they was also from Isle of Mali, you know, which we now refer to as Timbuktu region. You know,
we know about the miseducation system, everybody being victimized by those 12 years. You know, every organization, a group saying that this man has lied about everything. He's lied about things he ain't even got to lie about. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing truthful about him. He speaks with a forked tongue. Why would the thing that's so integral to our makeup and our being, that being our history, you know, and our, you know, our origins as it applies to where we come from or what have you, why would anybody expect this person to tell them the truth about that when that entails, you know, you being tied to this particular land, or any land for that matter, You know, because with land comes resources. With resources comes everything they go to war for.
Right.
So why would people expect, you know what I'm saying, this system to be truthful about the very thing that would give them liberation?
Right. Well, I think the answer was already given to us by Miseducation of a Negro by Carter G. Woodson, you know, second graduate of Harvard University, right behind W.B. Du Bois, in which he stated specifically that many of us are not even Africans, because many of us have never even been to Africa. And then he also said that we're not African American because, number one, few of us has never even not just left from Africa, but we never was in Africa. Right. In the book Miseducation of a Negro by Dr. Carter G. Woodson,
yes,
he states specifically that few of us are African American because we've never been to Africa or came from Africa, is what he stated specifically. So what he was saying was that the vast majority of us were from here. Now, not saying that we did not have, once again, an African connection, because I already spoke about the fact that 168 years before Christopher Columbus, we already sailed here based on historical facts by Mansa Abubakari II, who was the uncle of Mansa Musa, right, who they say is the richest man in the world.
And there was already a civilization that predated his as well, because we have the Olmec civilization.
The Olmec civilization.
And I believe as...
Right, the Fossums were here 75,000 years before that. The Washita was here 100,000 years before that. Mm-hmm. The Twa people was here 2 million years before that. This is according to James Churchward, the brother of Albert Churchward, in his book Children of Moor, where he states that the Pygmies, who is the Twa people, was already here in the Western Hemisphere, in specifically in what we now refer to as Hawaii. And Hawaii, based on what we've been taught in school, was one of the 50 so-called states. So that means that they was here in the Americas 2 million years ago.
Mm.